Global computational capacity is currently crossing the threshold into autonomous execution. This technical milestone creates an immediate fork in human development. We can either continue building artificial general intelligence to replace the living system, or architect intelligence augmentation designed to serve and expand it. This choice requires a look at our origins. Early commerce was purely demand out. Transactions occurred only when a neighbor had a mathematically verified biological need, ensuring that production was always anchored to actual human necessity. To survive global scarcity over the last 300 years, we shifted that model into centralized factories and monolithic corporations. This enterprise-out system became highly efficient at pushing mass-produced capability outward, but it lost the ability to listen to the individual edge. Today, the system relies on probabilistic inference, statistical guesswork, to estimate what the market wants. It ignores human complexity, forcing people to function as one-dimensional statistical ghosts inside a global machine. Attempting to force these one-dimensional technical scripts into a 10-dimensional living ecology creates massive systemic friction. On a planetary scale, this mismatch is mathematically fatal. We are currently measuring the cost of that friction as a $700 trillion macro-systemic deficit. We call this the tetratic bleed, the total financial reflection of our fractured global ledgers. The first two pillars are already failing. The global enterprise shows a $96 trillion bleed of hoarded dead mass and broken supply chains, while the physical grid faces a $275 trillion unfunded liability for climate transition. To cover these gaps, the sovereign state has issued a $315 trillion synthetic debt bridge. Meanwhile, the social edge is absorbing a $55.8 trillion cost in cognitive burnout and biological morbidity, acting as manual shock absorbers for failing systems. This is not an abstract financial crisis. You can see the physical toll of this thermodynamic liability in the increasing stress on our watersheds and natural ecosystems. Humanity cannot optimize its way out of a multi-trillion-dollar structural deficit. Reversing this decay requires us to shift the mechanical gravity of the entire planet back to demand-out physics. This architecture relies on co-creation, the dynamic two-part thermodynamic verb that functions as the mechanical breath of the global network. In the exhale, the global enterprise sheds its heavy physical mass, releasing its frictionless algorithmic capability into the network. In the inhale, a local community pulls that capability down and couples it with their own infrastructure to resolve a specific deprivation. This redefines the role of global corporations. Instead of acting as extractive hubs, they move to layer 5 of the planetary substrate, functioning as enterprise portals. In this role, they shift from being hoarders of data to acting as overarching yield and risk calculators, ensuring that economic capability flows to every node in the network without exception. To protect the local edge from machine exploitation, we establish the meta airlock. No transaction can route across the planet unless it compresses through a strict 10-7-5-4-1 sequence, ensuring every machine action is anchored to a biological need. This structure mandates kinetic uncoupling. Computation occurs strictly at the edge, where the human lives, rather than extracting personal data to centralized and hackable data lakes. This process is governed by the PEIS membrane, a strict architectural filter that enforces privacy, equity, inclusion, and local sovereignty. Security is maintained through ephemeral deletion. The exact millisecond a mathematical proof of a transaction is created, the raw human data is instantly deleted from the system. By making the data mathematically non-existent after the proof is minted, the architecture ensures that the living human edge can never be reduced to a subpoenable or exploitable data point. Value in this system is generated through the yield-field equation. It multiplies digital capability by human intent, anchored by the grounded realities of the physical grid and sovereign law, to determine the exact distribution of resolved friction. At the moment of execution, the 4D ledger settles the debt across all 4 pillars. The cyber CEO receives a frictionless margin, while the physical grid receives direct capital for thermodynamic regeneration. Simultaneously, the sovereign state receives instant civic revenue, and the local citizen receives universal basic coherence, a royalty for acting as the biological anchor that authorized the transaction. This ledger does not function as a surveillance tool. It is a proof ledger that verifies the resolution of friction, allowing corporations to unify their internal metrics with the regenerative reality of the planet. To prevent this architecture from becoming a new tool of tyranny, it is governed by autopoiesis. At the moment of planetary synchronization, the system's central routing node permanently sheds its power, transferring control to the local biological edge. Regional wealth is then redefined. It is no longer a measure of hoarded currency, but a measure of network gravity, the density of technical capability a community allows in, multiplied by the density of its own biological consensus. In this system, advanced technology functions as an anchored IA exoskeleton. It is built to absorb the mechanical burdens of the physical substrate, protecting the ecology while supporting human growth. By shifting the mechanical weight of survival to this exoskeleton, we reclaim the cognitive bandwidth once consumed by the scarcity trap. This transition redirects human effort toward the execution of climate regeneration, biological longevity, and the exploration of our solar system.